Okay, SIP requests. We saw in the last module that requests begin with a method type and a request URI. Let's now look at SIP requests in more detail. After mastering this module, you'll be able to describe the characteristics of a request, what they do and why we have them, and you'll be able to identify the three component parts of a SIP request. The key characteristic of a request is that it starts something. For example, when the user presses dial, the user agent constructs and sends an invite request that starts the process of initiating a new call. It might be that later, during the session, one party wants to change from audio only to audio and video. Again, it's a SIP request that starts the process of changing the session options. Likewise, at the end of the call, it's a SIP request that starts the process of terminating the call. There's actually one exception to this rule. There's one request that doesn't start anything. Watch out for it. We'll come back to it later. The SIP specification, RFC 3261, describes just 6 requests. There's 4 for initiating and managing calls, 1 for registration, and 1 for seeking capabilities. There's lots more SIP requests around, like, for example, texting over SIP, using SIP to subscribe to events and receive notifications, and transferring calls using referrals. But these are all additional requests defined in SIP extensions rather than through the core SIP spec itself. Now, every SIP request has 3 component parts. The very first line at the top is known as the start line. It always defines the purpose of the request and the intended recipient. Next, each line between the start line and the carriage return line feed is known as a message header. Now, headers typically contain either routing information that helps SIP devices know where to route this and subsequent SIP messages, or information that enables downstream devices to process the request in the correct context. Over the next few lessons, we'll be studying in depth each individual header so that you know what it does and why it's needed. Finally, after the carriage return line feed, we have the optional message body, also known as the payload. Now, the payload is most often used for conveying media options, as defined by the Session Description Protocol, the SDP, data through which both parties choose which codecs to use. It can also be used for other things, the text of an instant message or some XML data for a media server. So, the 3 parts to a message: the start line at the top, the headers in the middle, and an optional message body after the carriage return line feed. In summary then, a SIP request is issued to start some new process, a new call, a change to a call, or an end to a call. The RFC defines just 6 requests, and there are 3 component parts to a SIP request: the start line, the headers, and the message body or payload.